Okay, so this is more of my GEEKTASTIC blog. This is basically just covering the stuff that I'm a total geek for, such as the first thing I'm going to review, which is Scott Pilgrim versus the World. This is an amazing film. I saw this at I don't think that was a premiere, but they were doing like this major screening thing for it with Edgar Wright, Michael Cera, um, like everybody but Chris Evans was there, and it was just amazing. Michael Cera is actually really tall in person, which is really kind of unexpected, but this is just an amazing film about basically video games and video game culture and kind of the modern ADD age, kind of just crazy, absurd action rom-com about this guy who has to defeat his girlfriend's 7 evil ex-boyfriends. The cinematography in this is amazing. The special effects in this are amazing. Michael Cera is actually not annoying, which is amazing. Brandon Routh's badass. All the actors who play the exes are awesome. Just every bit about this movie is amazing. I think it was like my favorite maybe the year that came out, and it's just such a brilliant and really underappreciated film. Because I mean, I know that it's made way more on DVD, but like the box office, it just didn't gross anything, which is such a shame. Although it's like a total niche film, so it's kind of understandable. Next up, Terminator 2, Judgment Day. Greatest action film ever made? Quite possibly. I love Arnold Schwarzenegger in this. He is just amazing and eerie as the Terminator, as well as, humorous. Some people have complained about the John Connor parts. I didn't mind it so much. Although this may sound like kind of blasphemy, but I kind of would have preferred somebody more like DiCaprio to play John Connor. I think that he was at the right age during that time, maybe a wee bit older, but I think that would have been really awesome. Furlong, I love Furlong, but I think he mostly came into his own in the film American History X rather than this as an actor, because I don't know, I mean, this was his first film, so he's kind of, I don't know, he just seems overwhelmed by his character, and I think that a different actor would have been better. I know that 3 Sarah Connor Chronicles and Terminator Salvation are like more lesser entries, but I really think that those John Connors were better than Furlong's John Connor. I know, again, blasphemy, but I think my favorite John Connor was Thomas Dekker, and I would kind of rate the Sarah Connor Chronicles, the television series, right next to I guess the first Terminator in terms of best in the series. I just really, really dug it, and I don't know, I might get to that later. I'm just really scatterbrained because I haven't slept at all, and I am exhausted, man. My sleep schedule is shit. So, next up, Crank 2, High Voltage. Crank 2 is probably, my favorite Jason Statham film that I've seen. It's just so innovative in the way that they shot it. Kind of a just don't give a fuck kind of way of writing and approach to cinema, and just it totally brings back the whole 80s kick-ass action films, but also evolves from there to like just include, it's basically GTA on speed, pretty much is what it's being heralded as, but it's just such an amazing film. It's so, I mean, it's dark, it's controversial, it's basically like GTA meets South Park on speed, just like if like the world's most ADD person was playing GTA while simultaneously watching South Park, that's the crazy ass combination that you'd be getting with this. It's completely offensive. It's just so fucking violent. It just completely embraces all of the absurdity of its being. It starts out with a guy who survives a jump off of a helicopter and just gets crazier from there. I would love to talk more about it, but that would be spoiling. Although the villain is just really fucked up. But yeah, such an amazing action film. Which I'm a total geek for. Next up, Dracula's. Christopher Lee is like the definitive Dracula, man. I think he is to Dracula what Christopher Reeve is to Superman. Like, nobody can play Dracula as badass as Lee does, and it's just so eerie and haunting, yet at the same time menacing. I thought that I definitely prefer Lee's to, again, a controversial choice, but I prefer Lee's Dracula to Lugosi's. I just love it. He's just like eerie and terrifying, and yet like completely mesmerizing in his performance, as one playing a vampire should be. A real vampire, none of that Twilight bullshit. But yeah, he's also like a total badass and a great villain. I also kind of dug Gary Oldman as Dracula. I know that film doesn't get the greatest of praise, but I don't know, I kind of dug it. I already talked about X-Files, so I'll be skipping this. So next up, on the topic of horror, Nightmare on Elm Street. I like most people, I feel, only really loved 4 of the Elm Street saga. Those being the original Nightmare on Elm Street, Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors, New Nightmare, and Freddy vs. Jason. I know that Freddy vs. Jason's a controversial pick, but I just love it. It's just so B-movie, just don't give a fuck kind of. Why not Freddy vs. Jason? And that's part of its charm. It's just so it doesn't give a fuck, just gore fest between like 2 ass-kicking horror icons. I loved New Nightmare because it really kind of, I loved the whole branching out and making Freddy kind of not Fred Krueger per se, but like kind of a demonic entity in and of itself, which is like kind of was just being around longer than Fred Krueger, and I really kind of dug that because it became less of a horror film and more of a supernatural thriller. I mean, Nightmare on Elm Street's always been, obviously supernatural, but I loved how they took it that one step beyond, kind of the Cabin in the Woods of the Nightmare on Elm Street saga, if you will. God, I love that movie as well. The third one I really dug because, again, it had fantasy elements that New Nightmare had as well, which was like all the kids fighting back against Freddy and their dreams, and all of them having superpowers whilst being in their dreams. I heard that Guillermo del Toro wanted to make a Nightmare on Elm Street film, but I would have loved to have seen kind of a combination between Nightmare 3 and New Nightmare. I was kind of hoping that that's what the reboot would be, rather than just like some bullshit remake of the first one. And oh, hey, stupidity won out in the end. And I don't know, I just would love to see like a new Nightmare on Elm Street playing with kind of the dream world and CGI, kind of, again, a melding of New Nightmare and Dream Warriors, but with the current technology of CGI and whatnot. I mean, I'd love to have somebody who has like some serious clout to promote that film too, so that they could get their budget, like Peter Jackson or Guillermo del Toro, or somebody who's like a genius in those things. And obviously the original, what can you say? It's a classic horror flick. It's one of those. The ending, especially, it's just like the ending really gets me every time. It's eerie all the way through, and Freddy is just creepy as shit, and not the punster that he becomes. So next up, Serenity. Kind of the finale to the Firefly saga. What can I say about Serenity? It's amazing. It wraps up one of the 10 greatest shows of all time brilliantly. I didn't like it as much as the show, but then again, it's more the finale than, a standalone thing. And I just loved all the characters. Whedon, again, proves to be like the guy to handle ensemble casts. Nathan Fillion, Summer Glau, Gina Torres, Chiwetel Ejiofor, Adam Baldwin, even Glenn Howerton's in this from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Oh yeah, he has a pretty, I'm not going to spoil what it is, but he has a pretty great cameo in Crank 2 as well. Such an amazing movie, a western in space, so innovative, and yeah, I mean, Whedon's always genre bending with, Buffy being like a horror high school series, Angel being like a horror film noir. I guess Dollhouse being a spy sci-fi, and the Avengers being a superhero clusterfuck, I guess. And finally, Mr. Show. Mr. Show is a completely controversial and highly offensive TV program, but it's just, I love their weird sense of humor, which reeks of Python-ness, but Python meets South Park kind of it will offend you on some level, but the writing of it is just perfect and brilliant and genius. There are so many great sketches, can't talk today. It stars David Cross of Arrested Development fame, and Bob Odenkirk, who started in Saturday Night Live and the Ben Stiller Show, later went on to play Saul in Breaking Bad, as well as it has kind of early stuff from Jack Black and I think Patton Oswalt. The guys from Tool are in an episode. All in all, it's a great show, albeit highly offensive, so if you get offended easily, kind of nix that. But yeah, it's a great series, if not really sharply written humor, great skits.